I'll fully admit I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I'm also gonna take that off because I don't want to hear myself. Hi! Hi! Hello! I'm gonna kill myself. Surprise, bitch. Bet you thought you'd seen the last of me. It's the first time you've ever seen me. Hi, I'm Gus. Hi, I'm Gus. I don't know what I'm doing. And frankly, I don't think you are either because you're here listening / watching this. So, hi, thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about Mothman. So this is my podcast. It's called disGusting. And we are here to debate what it even means to be called a disGusting. It's going to flow really weirdly if I don't edit some of this out. Hi. Thank you for joining me today on my podcast. Thank you for joining me on my podcast. That was lame. That was super dumb. This is the disGusting podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Mothman, and basically every week we're going to be talking about different things that I find morbidly fascinating that other people might not. You know, they might find it disgusting. See what I did there? It's a joke. It's fun. You can laugh. It's fun. Have fun. We're here to have fun. This is entertainment purposes only. I'm not here to I don't have an educational teaching degree, okay? I'm not, I've done my own research. I think it's decent research. If you don't, I don't care. Go somewhere else. I'm not, here to be someone I'm not. I'm literally just here to make you laugh and to talk about stuff that I find fascinating. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about Mothman today. And in the future, we will be talking about, true crime, and we'll be talking about paranormal things and horror movies. Those are, the main things. Not in that order. I actually don't know what order. I don't know. We'll figure that out. That's for future me to figure out. You guys will already have that figured out. Anyway, today we're talking about Mothman, and I'm excited because Mothman is my boyfriend. Mothman is a god. Mothman is the breeze in my hair on the weekend. Mothman's a relaxing thought. Aren't you envious that for you it's not? Sweet like honey. Mothman is a cat. Okay, it's starting to fall apart now. Purring in my lap because it loves me. Anyway, flexing like a Mothman acrobat. Okay, we're done. I'm moving on. I love Mothman. I don't know if you could tell, but I love Mothman. He's my boy. He's my babe. He's everything to me, and I worship him. When you see me look down and not up at the camera, it's because unless you're listening to this is also a visual podcast. I will be posting it. You should be able to see it visually, at least on Spotify and YouTube. I don't know where else you can see it visually quite yet. Once I get this uploaded and figure that out. Oh, I'm sorry, I just bumped the mic. Once I figure that out, I will let you guys know how to watch this podcast. This is my first episode. Things are going to not... Okay, yeah, things are going to not. What? This is my first episode. Things aren't going to be absolutely perfect, but I am excited to see how it goes. If I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at myself. So I'm going to try my best to keep looking at the camera. But yeah, I just want to kind of get into this. I want to clarify, these notes that I've done for Mothman are from a long time ago. Not that long ago. I think about a year ago. I want to say about a year ago. But the point is, they're not super fresh off my mind, and I'm doing this on purpose. I'm not redoing the notes or re-educating myself on the Mothman because the Mothman, I guess you could call him the Mothman, whatever. But I'm not the point is, this is my first video, my first podcast, my first episode, whatever. It's my first one. And so I want to be able to redo this at some point. I want to do Mothman justice, and I know I can't do that right now, especially with these notes. So yeah, eventually I want to do a 2-parter, 3-parter, 4-parter about Mothman. There's that much information about him that literally I could make a multi-parter episodes. I could make multiple episodes about just Mothman and the people that have encountered him. Today I'm going to just give you guys a brief, not so brief rundown on him because he's my boyfriend and I want to introduce you guys to my boyfriend. So yeah, this is Mothman. I don't really know even how to get into it because like I said, I can't do him justice. There is so much to talk about. So I did a lot of research on this, an extensively bonkers amount of research on this. So much that I actually cut a lot of my notes because I was like, I can't do this justice back when I was originally going to record this. Okay, so my sources are literally the Athens Messenger. So the person hold on, make sure. I can't remember how I framed this. Okay, this might be a mess of an episode, but editing me is going to make it run so smoothly you won't even notice, I promise, okay? Actually, I can't promise that, but I'm going to promise that. I know her name is Mary Hyre. I'm pretty sure her name is Mary Hyre. I promise I'll get back to this. I'm trying to like skim through my notes to find her name real quick. But she's the one that like reported on all of this in the Athens Messenger. And so I literally pulled up her newspaper, her article from the Athens Messenger from, when was this? 19 whenever. Oh my gosh. 1966. I'm like, I promise it's all here. I just have to get to it in the notes. So I grabbed the bear by the throat, looked him right in the eye, and said, "Bear, you have to the count of 0 to put some pants on and apologize to the president." And that's the story of how I got elected to the Parliament of Uzbekistan. Okay, hi. Hi, it's me, hi. So I'm trying to frame. Hey guys, what's up? It's me from the future, and I basically just wanted to... I just want to pop in here and say... What? What am I trying to fucking say? Hey guys, it's me from the future. I have already recorded all of this episode. In fact, I've just barely finished editing most of it. This is more just something that I wanted to pop in. I actually don't know when or where I'm popping this in. Probably just right at the beginning. So it's not all gonna look like this. I just got a new setup and we're still trying to figure out how to record. So sorry if it looks different, sounds different. I'm figuring it out, okay? But I already have the entire Mothman episode edited, and as I was editing it, I wanted to say a few things. So when I'm reading my notes off of my iPad, basically, they're notes that I wrote myself. I do a lot of like verbatim reading, and I want to clarify that these notes I did write, and some of them I did paraphrase. And I want to give credit to the source of where I paraphrased a lot of this stuff from. So it's called Appalachian Oddity, and it is basically they have a YouTube channel, and they're the same person that created the Mothman Wiki. Dead inside. I feel dead inside. I just noticed while I was editing that while I'm reading verbatim, it doesn't sound like they're my notes, but they are my notes. So these are my notes that I wrote. I paraphrased and rephrased a few things that I found on Appalachian Oddity, but it's all my notes. I do want to give a shout out to Appalachian Oddity because I would not have been able to do this without Appalachian Oddity. I like saying Appalachian, it's fun. It's like an Appalachia. It's not Appalachia. Like a lot of people who are from where I'm from think it's called Appalachia, but no, it's Appalachia. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure it's Appalachia. Anyway, this guy created the Mothman Wikipedia and a very, very extensive timeline of the entire Mothman events. And I was doing all my research, and then I finally stumbled across the Appalachian Oddity website, and it had the timeline, and I was like, oh my gosh, finally. Like, I had all the different events, but I didn't know how to organize them, and so Appalachian Oddity, how do you say it? Appalachian Oddity. They were extremely helpful in creating this entire episode. It is kind of long, so I apologize, but I'm not really sorry. I kind of want these episodes to be long. That's like my vibe here. You know, where we're telling stories. I want it to be a long time. I want you to like enjoy this while you're working out or while you're going to work or while you're cleaning or anything, you know, while you're doing anything. I want this to be fun, but not fun because this is also scary. At least we're not talking about serial killers in this episode. That's coming up soon. So Appalachian Oddity has a YouTube channel, and they recently posted a video. I think it's called, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like Point Pleasant in 2024. And it's actually a really cool watch. I would totally recommend watching it. I'll link it down below in the description or in the podcast notes, the show notes. But it's totally worth a watch. It kind of goes through what Point Pleasant looks like today. I guess it's not today. I think it's back in May of 2024. Which obviously now it's 2025. Hey, what's up? But I basically just wanted to give just a really, really big shout out to Appalachian Oddity and the Mothman Wiki because this would not have been possible without their resources and their extensive work. So thank you. You're dope. Unless you've done something problematic, then you're not dope. But I don't know, and I'm not. So these are my notes. And when I'm reading verbatim, they are my notes that I wrote myself or I paraphrased things. I tried to change the wording of stuff so I wasn't exactly copying, but I wanted to make sure that I gave credit where credit is due because they deserve it. They obviously put a lot of work into this. So thank you for putting everything into a solid timeline for me because it was hard. This story is wild. So let's get back to it. Again, sorry about the quality difference. If this is, I don't even know how much of a quality difference it's going to be, but sorry about it if there is one. All right, now I'm going to go record episode 2. I hope you guys enjoy episode 1. Yeah, we're done. Okay, enjoy learning about Mothman. Mwah. Marry Hyre, yes, okay. Okay, there's so much. How do I even start? How do you even start talking about Mothman? Who is Mothman? What is he? He's a cryptid, okay? A cryptid is something that has not been proven, an animal that has not been proven. An animal? Hold on. Did I not? I swear to God. I wrote down what a cryptid was. So, this is from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. An animal that has been claimed to exist but never proven to exist. So, something that has basically never been proven to exist. That's what a cryptid is, and that's what Mothman is, a cryptid. My personal theory about Mothman is that he's an alien, okay? I just want to get that out of the way right now. My own personal belief is that he's an alien. So, do I believe in aliens? Yeah. Do you? You should. The government has literally just came out saying that they have aliens. I mean, it's more complicated than that. But that's like the basics. Aliens. Aliens. Like, aliens, bro. And then along came Zeus. Okay. I promise I'll get better at this as we go. Let's just continue. I'm cutting this out anyway. You guys ever water your plants? I like to water plants. Although everyone thinks that this takes place in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, our story actually begins long before Hercules, many eons ago. So the sightings themselves don't actually take place in West Virginia, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. But that's where he's like most celebrated because the people who saw him were residents of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So they're all talking about it amongst themselves in the neighborhood gossip. But the sightings themselves happen like around Point Pleasant, West Virginia, not directly in the town. Anyway, that's just like details, right? But that's why you're here. So anyway, that's where I want to start the story. Point Pleasant, West Virginia. That's where we're at. Point Pleasant, West Virginia has this massive, not massive, like a regular size, a little bit bigger. It's a tall statue. it's a decently sized statue of Mothman. He is out and about, walking around. Actually, that'd be cool if he could walk around. He doesn't walk. That'd be deep. Whoa. What are words? They have a Mothman statue. I've been there. I've seen him. I'll put a picture up for the people watching the visual podcast. I went to visit my best friend in Ohio, and it was very fun. We drove over to Point Pleasant, and we saw the Mothman statue. This was before I knew much about him, so we didn't do any of the touristy stuff. We literally just saw the statue and went home. And I'm really sad because I want to like do the touristy stuff. I want to go to the TNT area. I want to see these different things and do these different things. Go to the gift shop and like blah, blah, blah. There's a Mothman Festival, too. I want to go to the Mothman Festival. So, anyway. So, Mothman is the sexiest cryptid. I will die on this hill. He's also my boyfriend, so... And that's why I'm talking about him on today's episode of Disgusting Creatures, because... And that is why he is today's subject of Disgusting Creatures, because I am so obsessed with him. And I don't mean... That's the thing, is I don't mean disgusting or creatures in like a negative way. Like, if you get my drift, like I don't mean it in a negative way. Disgusting creature, like me too. Like I get it. Hello, I'm right here. But like I mean it more in a positive way, which is why I'm saying Mothman's my boyfriend. Let's move on. So every September, Point Pleasant, West Virginia has a Mothman Festival. They sell a bunch of like different Mothman-themed items. They have a bunch of merch, pizza, coffee, baked goods, stuff like that. Point Pleasant heavily leans into the tourism aspect of Mothman, which is why some people are a little bit skeptical because he's like, especially during September, everywhere. He's everywhere. But like after my research, like there are tangible reports of people like seeing unexplainable things. So maybe it's not Mothman, maybe it's Maybelline, I don't know. When I first started doing these notes, I was calling it Pleasant Point, which kind of sounds like a sex shop, I won't even lie. And on that note, this podcast is going to be explicit, so sorry, Mom. Anyway, Pleasant Point is not a thing, but there are 2 neighborhoods in The Sims called Strangetown and Pleasant View. And in Sims 3, there's one called the Riverview and Twinbrook. And there's one in The Sims 4 called Strangerville. There's also a family called the Pleasant Family. I love The Sims. I love The Sims. And I kind of want to start like a gaming thing. If you guys like me, I can't like bring anything to the table, but if you think I'm funny, I could start a gaming thing. Anyway, not relevant. Moving on. So, oh, okay. So here's the definition for cryptid. Of course, now I find it. See, it just wasn't where I thought it was going to be, but it's still here. I still find, okay, I found it. But anyway, Mothman is by far the sexiest cryptid, and I will die on this hill. And I'm not sorry about it. He has abs that could cut glass. Look at his statue. Look at his butt. I'm not gonna pretend like I wouldn't smash. So even though Mothman is the sexiest cryptid, I will say the Jersey Devil and the Flatwoods Monster are right up there. Right next to it. Like, it's a pretty good three-way tie. Dream foursome. Dream blunt rotation. Okay, moving on. So, I need to go to this Mothman Festival more than anything in my life. This is my Eras tour. I also went to the Eras tour. That was fun. That was great. That was amazing. I went when she was still singing Invisible String. So, crazy how time flies. So let's establish his look. I'll put pictures up for the people watching the visual side, but if you aren't watching the visual side, let me kind of describe what he looks like. Okay, let's establish his look. What is he going for? What message is he giving? So he's a humanoid figure. He walks upright on his hind legs. Some accounts describe him as gray, some brown. He's anywhere from 6 feet to 8 feet tall. He can fly. He has 8 feet to 6 feet wingspan, but doesn't flap his wings when he flies. They just kind of like open and stay there. They don't flap. They just stay there, which is like really unnerving. Like really unnerving. His most notable feature, like me, is his vibrant, haunting, gleaming, piercing red eyes. I should edit. He's basically my dream man. Like, someone literally went into my dream journal and found the description of the man of my dreams and turned it into Mothman. Like, that's not fair. That's rude. And I don't appreciate it. This is a call out. I demand. Also, I'm going to be using he, him pronouns because Mothman, but he also hasn't said anything about it. So, like, if he ends up becoming like they, them, she, her, like, I will not judge. I will not judge. We will adjust as we go. But as far as we know, he is Mothman. So I want to use my hand to talk. But also, I'll be using they, them as like a singular they, them because that's normal. Like, you find a wallet on the ground, you pick it up, you return it to them, you find them. Like, something on the internet that I found that I was trying to recite from memory that I can't remember. So it doesn't matter. Moving on. Anyway, so yeah, Mothman, but also Moth they. So I love that. He's great. Oh, I love Mothman. He's a cryptid, and gender's not real. And your gender identity is valid. And if you're transphobic, then I'm sorry. I don't know what to do for you. Like, why are you here? Like, I don't have anything to say to you. So, piggybacking off of him being my dream man, anyone who looks him in the eyes feels like this intense feeling of despair and like dread and like death. So perfect for me, basically. And like, apparently he establishes like this psychic connection with you, so even when you're not around him, you can still feel him, which feels very like malevolent. It's interesting because a lot of people feel like Mothman's supposed to be this like warning or harbinger of like something bad to come, but he's not evil himself. But then there's other people who say that he is evil. So we're gonna get into the sightings though, don't worry. This is just a basic overview, but we're about to dive in. So, John Keel, one of the more important people in the story, compiled over 100 different stories and weird paranormal encounters that happened in between 1966 and 1967. So that's kind of where we're going. We're going to travel back in time a little bit, going back to 1966 and 1967 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, United States. So, are you guys ready? This is going to get literally wild. It's going to get literally wild. So, it's Tuesday, November 1st. We're at a military armory near Camp Connolly Road in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. A National Guardsman claimed to have seen a large brown humanoid figure perched in a tree. I couldn't find out any more information about this, but I would assume that it either flew off or vanished, or he left screaming or freaked out or something. So that was John Keel's like. He compiled a bunch of stuff together. I found his exact compilation of different things. And so yeah, the first ever sighting of Mothman at least according to John Keel. Keel, that's his name, Keel? Yeah, for some reason I thought it was Creel, like Henry Creel. Not talking about that right now, don't worry. Henry Creel, not Henry Creel, John Keel. But yeah, so according to John Keel, the first, and so John Keel, we'll get more into who he is later, I promise, but for now, he's like a paranormal investigator, quote unquote, like kind of. Well, again, we'll get into more of who he is later. According to him, that this was the first sighting of Mothman, and it was by a National Guardsman, which I think is interesting. And this was on November 1st, 1966, November 1st. Then, skip forward like a week and a half to November 12th, 1966. This is in Clendenin, West Virginia. So we were in Point Pleasant, West Virginia first, which was near Camp Connolly Road. Now we are in Clendenin, West Virginia. It's a cold Saturday night, and Kenneth Duncan from Blue Creek is helping 4 other men dig a grave. Bob Lovejoy, Bill Poole, Andrew Godby, and Emil Gibson. I hope I'm saying those names right. I'm so sorry. I'm sure they're dead now, but who knows? That was 1966. They might not be dead. I'm not going to look it up. I don't care enough. I'm sorry. You guys are probably cool. Anyway, I'm quizzing you on this later, so make sure you remember these names. I'm kidding. You literally won't ever hear them again. So as they're working, Kenneth spotted a creature in the nearby tree. He described it as a brown human shape with wings. So kind of like the first one, brown human shape with wings. Which, we could talk about the cryptid Owlman, which people just think is Mothman, but they just call it Owlman in that area. But that was more described as brown, I'm pretty sure. I didn't research that recently, so I could be misremembering that. But it's described as brown, which is interesting, because this encounter and the one before, the only ones I remember it really ever being described as brown besides the Owlman, as far as I remember. I could be wrong about that. That's okay, we're going to redo this episode when I have more followers and more time and more money and more resources. So don't worry, we're gonna get through this. You guys, thanks for tagging along while we do this. So he described it launching itself into the air and flying over their heads. The other men didn't see it until it took flight. None of them would report this sighting until later when other people started also seeing this creature around. So that's kind of freaky. Some reports say the creature made noises that sounded like a screaming woman, but I couldn't find any solid evidence that happened. But if that's true, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? And like, other accounts have said there's like a screeching noise, but never like a screaming woman. That's the only time it's ever been described as like a screaming woman. It's always like a screeching, like a record scratching kind of thing. We'll get there. So, hard shift to Athens, Ohio on the 16th. So this is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That is 4 days later. Hard shift to Athens, Ohio. Focus on Mary Hyre, right? She writes columns for the Athens Messenger, and her reporting on this creature in the Athens Messenger, I literally went back at the Athens Messenger is available online, and I went back and literally I'll put them on the screen. I screenshotted the different articles that we'll be reporting on. So my source is Mary Hyre herself. She is the reporter that reported on this. So these are firsthand accounts, like literal firsthand accounts of Mothman. This isn't like I did listen to different podcasts and different things, like, and that's why we drink and stuff like that at the time of researching these notes. But these specific notes are taken on her newspaper articles. Like, I didn't take notes on, and that's why we drink, and then I'm copying them. Like, this is my own telling because these notes are from John Keel's book and Mary Hyre's. John Keel had multiple books, but John Keel's books and Mary Hyre's literal first-hand account articles. It's wild. You'll see. We're getting there. So, again, Mary Hyre, she wrote for the Athens Messenger. She's kind of a badass. She was one of the first reporters to ever write a story about Mothman and introduce him to the public eye. I don't remember exactly if she was the first, but she was one of the first. To report on him publicly and call him Mothman. I don't think she called him. Well, I think I have that written down, actually, of why he's called Mothman. So yeah, her work is pivotal to the Mothman lore. It all started when she was working in her office and received a tip. So I definitely imagine this. It probably didn't happen like this in real life, but in my mind, it's like in Agent Carter, where she's the only one in there and like the phone rings and she picks it up and takes on the case and ends up winning the day kind of a thing. That's what I'm imagining this like. I guarantee it didn't happen like that though. But basically, she got a tip, which led her to publish an article titled Winged Red-Eyed Thing Chases Point Couple Across Countryside. And she published this on Wednesday, November 16th, 1966. So this happened the day before, I'm pretty sure. So it would have happened on November 15th is when this happened. And I'm about to tell you what happened. It made the front page, which was kind of a big deal, especially for a woman in the 1960s, I'm assuming. Women have never been treated well, even today. So let's be real. And local stories never got the front page. Front page was reserved for like national news and like super important stuff. So the fact that she made front page with this was kind of a big deal. So now let's go back the night before. So the 15th. She published this on the 16th. If I just read my notes in order, you guys will see, I promise. I do want to give a little bit of a trigger warning for animal death. I also kind of want to give like a blanket trigger warning for this entire podcast. I will be talking about messed up things, and I will try my best to give you guys trigger warnings beforehand, but I mean, there's not going to be any sort of sexual assault or anything like that in this story, but there is going to be animal death in this one, at least. And when I talk about true crime, I will be talking about serial killers and stuff that they have done. So I just want to be right up front and say if anything like that triggers you, this podcast is probably not for you. And I wish you the best. I hope the best for you, genuinely. But this podcast is going to be covering disgusting topics. That's why I called it disgusting. So yeah, blanket trigger warning, but I will also still try to give you guys trigger warnings before talking about those things in those specific episodes as well. So I just want to get that out. So this is November 15th, 1966. So before we actually go into the article that she was talking about, there's something else that happened that night at the same time. So there were 2 couples, 4 people that this happened to, but on the same night, earlier in that night, something else also happened kind of at the same time. So I want to go in chronological order here. Before we go into what that article was about, I want to set the mood and talk to you about a building contractor living in Salem, West Virginia named Merle Partridge. People thought his name was Newell, because of a mistake in the listing of his birth certificate early in life. This led investigators to believe that Newell was his name, but he went by the name Merle. I think Newell was on his birth certificate, but he went by the name Merle. So sorry if I just dead named you, bro. That's shitty on me, my bad. Yeah, so Merle Partridge, it's 10:30 p.m. and he's just chilling. There's not a time. I didn't write a time down for when the other thing happened that night, the TNT sighting. Anyway, we're gonna get there, I promise. So, it's about 10:30 p.m. He's just chilling in his house watching TV, probably about to fall asleep, when suddenly his TV turns off. Completely turns off. And then it turns back on with a herringbone pattern on it. I don't know if you know what a herringbone pattern is, but that shit is scary as fuck, okay? If anything of mine did something like that, I would literally shit myself and then throw up everywhere. Like, I'll put up on the screen what a herringbone pattern is, but if you don't have access to the visual podcast, go look up what a herringbone pattern is, because it came up on the screen like in the static, like the white static, the white noise, that it made that pattern, the herringbone pattern. And that is so deeply disturbing to me for some reason. I just can't. That's not even like a big thing. But what the fuck? Different sources say different things, but he basically hears a noise, either coming from outside or from the TV, but it was basically a super high-pitched noise sounding like a generator winding up, quote unquote, that slowly raised in pitch before suddenly going completely silent. So like, revs up, super, super loud, high-pitched noise, and then gone. Then it's gone. Completely just no noise anymore. His hunting dog, I know, Bandit. His name is Bandit. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it, okay? We're not going to talk about it. Except we're literally about to talk about it. So, his hunting dog, a German Shepherd named Bandit, started to howl from the porch outside, so he went to investigate. Bandit was fixated on the hay barn in the yard. Merle claims that he saw multiple sporadic red lights moving in a circular motion, and when he shone his flashlight at it, they reflected back, quote unquote, like bicycle reflectors, like literally, as a direct quote. Newspapers mistook this as 2 glowing red eyes that reflected back, and they ran with that, but Merle clarified in later interviews during the 2000s that they were not red eyes. Bandit, who is a very territorial hunting dog, immediately started chasing after these things. Merle called out to stop him, but the dog ignored him. So he bolted back inside and grabbed his gun to go save his dog, and then decided that he was too scared, so he slept with the gun by the bed. The next day, he went out to the hay barn where he saw the lights to investigate, and he couldn't find his dog anywhere. But he did see paw prints in the dirt that went around in a circle, but they never led off anywhere. Just paw prints going around in a circle, never leading off. No tracks leading off. That's what. 2 days later, there was still no sign of his well-trained dog, who should have come home by now. He decided to read the newspaper and noticed an article on the front page titled "Winged Red-Eyed Thing Chases Point Couple Across the Countryside," and sees the date is the same day he saw the red lights. And there was another shocking detail. about that article that broke his heart. Oh, I also want to point out, a week after this sighting with this man, a man knocked on his door and said that he drove his car into a ditch while looking for his missing son. This man claimed to have seen a large, fast-moving object with flashing lights that passed his car beside the road, causing him to run his car into a ditch about a mile from Merle's house. Merle used his Jeep to pull the car back out onto the road and helped him look for his son. They eventually found the child about 200 yards away from Merle's house, walking down the road. He supposedly couldn't remember what had happened or where he'd been. The following summer, Merle claimed that an incredibly large mechanical object the size of a hotel blacked out the sky over his house. So Merle's just, like, not having a good time at all. But at least they found the kid. That's nice. At least they found a kid. The kid. At least they found the kid that they were looking for. And this was in Salem, West Virginia, by the way. Salem, West Virginia. Not Salem, Massachusetts. Different Salem. So not like the Salem witch trials, Salem, Massachusetts. Salem, West Virginia. Different Salem. Okay, so same night. I don't know exactly what time. I'm looking and I don't know what time this happened at. But it was late at night. So this is Steve, Mary, Roger, and Linda. So Steve and Mary Mallette, and Roger and Linda Scarberry. So Steve was 20. I'm not sure how old Mary was. Roger was 18. Linda was 19. And this Mary Mallette is not Mary Hyre. Mary Hyre is the one that wrote for Athens. Mary Mallette is one of the couple that was in the car. So Steve and Mary are married. There's Steve and Mary Mallette. And then Roger and Linda Scarberry. So imagine this. We're in the Vampire Diaries.
For over a century, I have lived in secret. I'm a vampire. And this is my story.
I say that because in the pilot of the Vampire Diaries, there's a car driving down the road and it's really late and there's like fog and it's like forest and like... Anyway, I just imagine this exactly like that. That's literally what I'm imagining. So there's two couples in a black 57 Chevy driving down a dark road at night with trees on either side. I don't know if it actually looked like the Vampire Diaries thing, but that's how I imagine it. But there's also no fake body lying in the road. Like, that's not a thing. Also, Vampire Diaries Season 1 is so camp, and so heavily horror-based. And it's incredible. Vampire Diaries Season 1 and Season 2. I think Season 2 is the best. Not gonna lie. Vampire Diaries Season 2 is the best season. Fight with me. I would actually like to have that discussion, a friendly discussion about that. If you'd like, let me know. But we're moving on. So, the area that they were driving through was popping off during World War II. So a little bit of a history lesson. It was primarily used for manufacturing and storing explosive weapons. Which is not good. I want to clarify, I'm anti-war. That is not okay. Like, that's not good. Like, weapons' purpose is to kill. I don't like that. So I just want to clarify right now, I am very anti-war of all sort. So it's a TNT factory. TNT factory, like Minecraft TNT factory. They were manufacturing Minecraft TNT. How about that? Let's pretend like it's that. So it's not like it's a world war, right? So yeah, it's a TNT factory as well as concrete igloos around the area that were completely abandoned after the war ended, but left the area badly damaged by all the chemical leakage. There's also a network of tunnels branching around the area. Very Disneyland, very LA, if you really think about the conspiracy theories. Very, I don't know what other places have secret tunnels underneath them. I'm sure a lot of them do. And also the LA one, that's a conspiracy theory. I don't know if that's actually true. But Disney does. Not Disneyland. No. Disney World has the tunnels. Disneyland does not. And because Disney World is in Florida, and they can't even have basements in Florida. They actually built the tunnels first, and then built it on top. Because they built Disney World later, so they built the tunnels first and built on top because they can't go below. You know what? I could straight up be feeding you misinformation right now, so I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna stop talking. One of them has secret tunnels underneath. I'm pretty sure that's Florida. Anyway, moving on. So in and around 1966, the local teens would call it the TNT area, and they would go to hang out there, which is basically have sex and smoke weed. Like, let's be real. What else were they doing in the 60s? Almost 70s, which is probably what these people were doing when they saw this. I won't even lie. Like, let's be real. So today, this area is known as the McClintic Wildlife Management Area. It's a several hundred-acre densely wooded area with a vast amount of trees. It has artificial and natural ponds as well as steep ridges and hills. The majority of its land is largely inaccessible by vehicle, so you have to walk through most of it. There's not a lot of roads in that area. As they curve over the hillside, the abandoned North Power Plant comes into view, and two girls in the car notice two beaming red eyes staring at them. They don't realize that they were even eyes until the creature they were attached to started shuffling its way towards the entrance to the plant. Once the girls pointed it out, they pulled the car over to get a better look. So this thing is like shuffle walking, like a penguin. And I genuinely think it's because it's wrapping its wings around its body so it can't move. So it just like shuffles back and forth. Yeah, it basically wraps its wings around itself and shuffles back and forth like a penguin, like literally like a penguin. That's how I imagine it. So Linda described it as fiery red eyes that glow only when hit by light, like a man with wings, dirty gray coloration, saw no arms or head, muscular human-like legs, body-shaped form, wings behind the body coming around, unbalanced and wobbly when standing, spread wings and took off straight upwards, gliding in flight back and forth over back end of car, reached speeds of 100 to 105 miles per hour, flapping only occasionally to go upward or for more speed. Mouse-like squeaking sound. So that was Linda's description. Linda was on it. She was the one that gave the most like description. So she was on it. She knew what she was about. Mary said it was 6-foot tall man with wings on its back, red eyes, 2 inches in diameter, about 6 inches apart, didn't see a head. It quickly took off up into the air, glided in flight, flew at speeds of 100 to 105 miles per hour, let out a sound like a sped up record or big mouse squeak. Oh, not a scratching record, a sped up record. Like when you speed a record up really fast and it makes a really high pitched noise. That is what it sounded like. So, Roger said, shaped like a 6-foot man with wings on its back, light gray in coloration, red eyes 2 inches in diameter, 6 to 8 inches apart, ran awkwardly, flew straight up, glided 100 miles per hour, 10 feet wingspan. Ran awkwardly. That's taken me out. Ran awkwardly and didn't have a head. What the fuck does that mean? It ran awkwardly and it didn't have a head. I'm sorry, that's just what? It's so unnerving because, like, these people are convinced they saw this, like, for real. And then Steve, he said, man with wings 6 or 7 feet tall, gray in color, red eyes reflected headlights, clumsy runner, flew up to 100 miles per hour. So again, Linda's the one that gave the most description. Okay, one of the first things you learn in theater, I'm a theater kid if you couldn't tell, one of the first things you learn in theater is if they can see them, hold on, how do I phrase? If you can see them, they can see you. These people understood that. So the 4 of these people knew that, and so they booked it, they ran, they started running. And then it appeared in front of them. So, okay, that was the descriptions, now we're going back to what was happening. So they see the creature, they freak out, and they start running. Because, yeah, then it appeared in front of them on top of the hill and then launched itself into the sky. It had a giant 10-foot wingspan, but did not flap its wings. They drove down Route 62 at 100 miles per hour while it chased them, keeping up with their car. So that's how they knew how fast it would fly, because it was next to their car and they were driving at 100 miles an hour. Which, okay, tell on yourself then. And some reports say this is when it was making the screeching noise from its mouth and sounded like a record player being played at high speed, or the squeak of a mouse. Some say it was when they went back. Because yeah, they went back. Once they got into town, it eventually stopped chasing them and flew into a nearby field. They stopped at the local dairyland to discuss what to do next, and Linda wanted to go straight to the police, but the others convinced her that the police wouldn't believe them. Which, like, yeah, why would the police believe you? Police don't believe anything, let's be real. And also, they barely believed themselves. So naturally, they decided to go back. Cannot relate. Literally cannot relate. I would not. Well, I feel very Brittany Broski meme. Well, no. Well, maybe. I might. So they reached the C.C. Lewis farmhouse and he was standing in the middle of the road next to a large dead dog. And they shined their headlights on it. This time it jumped over their car and disappeared into the nearby field. So this detail of the dead dog was included in the article, and that's why I was being dramatic about him seeing the detail that would sink his heart. Because he saw Merle, I'm talking about Merle. Merle saw that there was a dead dog, and that broke his heart. Because obviously he's missing his dog. That's what I was trying to get at there. So yeah, that dead dog, that's sad. And it makes me sad. And it made Merle sad when he saw it in the newspaper too, because yeah, he read it in the newspaper and saw there was a dead dog. I don't know if it was ever confirmed that it was his dog, but in my own headcanon, he's up in doggy heaven living his best life. So actually, no, he's not in doggy heaven because he didn't die. He found an owner that he found a sick kid that needed a dog friend to be by while the sick kid got better, and then the sick kid got better too, because I don't want to introduce a sick kid and then kill the kid, because that would be so sad. So, Bandit found a sick kid that is no longer sick because the sick kid got better, and then Bandit is better too, and everyone lived happily ever after. The end. Thanks for watching. Bye. So yeah, it jumped over their car and then disappeared into the nearby field after they shined their headlights on it. Which means, like, they saw it fully lit up, right? If they shined their headlights on it, they saw it fully lit up, which is probably why they're so freaked out. So now that they confirmed what they saw, they stopped at Tiny's Diner, which is now a Village Pizza. And actually, I don't know if that was, as of writing these notes, it was a Village Pizza. Now that they know exactly what they saw and could give an accurate description, they contacted the police. They ended up having to go to the Mason County Courthouse and file an official police report. Millard Halstead, the chief deputy at the time, was working late that night and was there to take the reports when they came in. It was such a small town that he knew the Mallettes and the Scarberries and believed their story because he knew them personally. And he was the chief of police, so he took their story seriously because he knew who they were. So they were placed in separate rooms and told to write what they saw. They all told the same exact story. Their original handwritten reports are available in the Mothman Museum in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And I'm so mad that I didn't go to the Mothman Museum when I was in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I literally just went to the Mothman statue and was like, okay, I'm good. We're great. Hello? Ma'am? Moving on. Oh yeah, then they went back. Again, for the third time, they went back. So the police went with them this time, and they went back to see if they could find anything with the police. So they didn't find Mothman again, obviously, because that wouldn't make a cool story. I mean, I guess that's what would happen in Scooby-Doo. They would find him and demask him, and oh, it was Mr. Hugh the whole time. Oh, you meddling kids, whatever. But no, they did not find Mothman. But they did hear a lot of strange noises and saw weird shadows, maybe even glowing red eyes. They also came upon either a strange pile of dust or a strange cloud of dust, maybe both. But the dead dog they saw was nowhere to be found. I do remember that, yeah. So the dog was gone, and Mothman was not there either. So I don't think Merle ever found out if that was Bandit because the dog was gone. It ended up vanishing, so who knows? I don't think it ever said what kind of dog it was, because in Mary's article it just said a dead dog. Again, I'll probably have that article up. I don't know. We'll figure that out in editing. So the Malletts went back to the Scarberries' house where the four of them stayed awake all night from fear. So they all just kind of hung out together at the Scarberries and couldn't sleep. But yeah, also some of those strange noises they were hearing before they went back to their house, like when they were still at the area with the police. Some people say that's when they heard the weird screeching noise, the high-pitched noise. Others say it was when it was chasing their car. So there's different accounts. Some sources say that, and when I say some sources, it means I heard this in the podcasts and the other things, and I just didn't see it in the articles that I was reading, like from Mary Hyre herself. But apparently there was a hoof-like print when they went back to investigate with the police and stuff, there was a hoof-like print in the dirt or something like that. I didn't find any evidence of this anywhere except for like different podcasts. I don't actually remember where I heard that, now that I think about it, but I did write it down. But I also wrote down that was not substantiated. I couldn't find any evidence of that. So, the Scarberries were living in a rented trailer near Tiny's Diner during all of this, and in the aftermath, they experienced repeated unexplainable things that happened in their house. So, yeah. After seeing this creature, now they're, like, having weird things happen to them. They heard strange beeping, the garbled sound of a sped-up phonograph record, which is that the same noise, like the high-pitched noise? Or is that, like, a different noise? Anyway, odd lights appearing all around the home, objects moving inexplicably, and heavy odor of cigar smoke despite no one in the house smoking. They could never find any logical sources for any of the things happening. Fun fact, when I went to the Queen Mary, I smelled cigar smoke. I promise we'll get to that story in a different episode. But that was a wild experience. So I know what that is like to smell like cigar smoke, super, super strong cigar smoke, and like not know where it's coming from. That's creepy. Very creepy. And the Queen Mary is creepy. And I'm very excited to talk about that with you guys. So we'll get there in like a few episodes. Don't worry. I think it's funny because no, that wasn't me smoking weed. That was the poltergeist smoking weed. So like, I don't want to say that doesn't happen with this stuff. But also, I'm sure one of them was probably just smoking something and saying it was the other person. I would do that. No, it was not me smoking weed. That was Mothman. Like I guarantee one of the guys or girls can smoke too, but one of them was probably smoking and blaming it on the poltergeist or on the whatever, on the alien, on the Mothman or whatever. In December of 1966, Linda and Roger moved to a basement in the house of Linda's parents. Butthole, who said that? That was not me. That was not me. Does anyone else ever get Charlie horses right here? It's not like in my armpit, it's like on the back end. Here's your reminder to drink water. Drink water. Right now. Stop what you're doing and drink water. Take your hands off the wheel and drink water. I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. For legal reasons, do not take your hands off the wheel. Keep both hands on the wheel and both eyes on the road. Actually, take one eye and put it off the road and put one eye on the road. And okay. I think I'm going crazy. In December of 1966, a month after the sighting, Linda and Roger moved to a basement in the house of Linda's parents, the McDaniels. The weird things didn't stop. They followed them to the new house. They kept being haunted in this new house. One night, Linda reportedly looked out the window and saw Mothman sitting on the roof of the house, which slanted down from the upstairs bedroom window. The creature's wings were folded around itself, as if to keep itself warm in the cold weather. Which, like, let him inside. Let him inside. I will not say it again. Let him inside. I'm trying so hard. I broke. I tried. Its head was tilted sideways, and it was looking curiously through the window. Like a little cat or something, right? Linda said that she viewed the creature as lonely and thought it didn't want to hurt her, but to communicate. So again, let him inside. I will not repeat myself as I say it multiple times. What is the bit I'm going for here? I don't think it's working. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna go cry now. Because that's sad. He just wants a hug. Mothman just wants a hug, and he's just warning us of upcoming danger. I don't think he's evil. He just wants a hug. And I'll hug him. I'll hug Mothman. I'll give him a big hug. I'll give him... Well, never mind. I did say this was an explicit podcast, but I'm not gonna... So this is, Wednesday, November 16th. The police hold a press conference. This is what really put his name on the map, because once they put his description out, tons of people were like, wait, I've seen that. So essentially how it worked was Mary Hyre wrote this article. This article garnered a bunch of attention, so the police hold a press conference. And then this press conference then gets the Mothman's description out, and then everyone starts saying, oh, I've seen him. Oh, I've seen him too. And a bunch of people have started saying they've seen him. And then John Creel, that gets John Creel's attention, and he comes to Point Pleasant and starts compiling stories and compiles over 100 stories. So that night, 6 more people saw him. So the 6 people were Marcella Bennett and her daughter, Marcella's brother, his wife, and the Thomas children, Connie, Vicky, and their older brother, Ricky. So the Thomas children are Connie, Vicky, and Ricky. It was about 9 p.m., and Marcella and Raymond went to visit their sister, Virginia Thomas, and her husband, Ralph, and their kids. So Marcella, her daughter, and Marcella's brother, Raymond, and his wife all went to go visit the Thomases. It was about 9 p.m., and Marcella and Raymond... Oh, I already said that. When they got to the house, they realized that the parents were not there, and it was just the kids that were there. So Ricky was 15 years old. He was the oldest one of the kids, and he was watching them. So, and they were like, okay, well, we'll just come back another time then when your parents are home. We wanted to see our sister and the whole family and, whatever. So they started to walk back to their car. And as they were walking back to their car, Raymond tried to get his sister's attention to point out the weird lights in the sky that were hovering above the trees, which is such a me thing to do with my sister. I'd be like, hey, hey, like, look. And then she would be like, yeah, sure, Jan. Like, I mean, at this point, if we were younger, maybe she wouldn't have believed me. At this point in our relationship, she'd believe me. I think she would. Just like knowing her love of creepy things too and her love of paranormal things. And if I said, hey, this is weird, she would look at it. She would be like, I'm gonna look at it too. Like, I don't know. When we were kids though, not so much. Raymond tried to get his sister's attention and he pointed out that there were weird lights hovering in the sky above the trees. Marcella ignored him, but as she went to unlock her car door, she saw something move out of the corner of her eye. When she looked over at it, it stood up from behind the car. She described men's legs, ew, that looked like they were covered with gray feathers, ew. It had wings drawn in towards its body. Its head was tilted sideways and sunken into its shoulder area. So, like, no neck. So it was like the head was sunken into the neck. There was no neck. More than 6 feet tall, like a giant bird, but also a man. So, like, there's obviously, like, a telling thing. This is a completely different people that are seeing this and are describing it the same way. I lost my spot. Raymond and his wife, Kathy, were both terrified and kept yelling for Marcella to run, but she was completely frozen with fear. She tried to get herself together and run, but was in such a shock from fear that she fell over on top of her daughter, who she was still holding in her arms, her, like, baby daughter. Oh, her daughter was 2 years old. She was unable to get up or move or anything. It was like she was in a trance. She literally was in so much fear, she was in a trance. When she was finally able to snap herself out of it, she grabbed her daughter and ran into the house after everyone else, locking the door behind her. Her hands and knees were badly scraped and bruised, but she had been burned by her lit cigarette. She was smoking a cigarette, and the side of her face was bleeding from where she had fallen. Which, like, ow? The children were inside and all freaking out and crying. Raymond frantically called the police. He said that they were locked in the house, but that it was still outside. They say it shuffled. I'm sorry, that's still, I know it's like kind of funny thinking about it walking like a penguin, but that's still like terrifying. Why is it walking like that? They say it shuffled onto the porch and pushed on the door before peering into the window. So it didn't open the door, but like pushed on it. Mary Hyre wrote in her article the next day that they went back outside and saw it watching them from behind a pile of bricks. So Mary Hyre wrote an article about this. Then they watched it fly away. It took the police about 15 to 20 minutes to arrive at the house, but the creature was gone by the time they got there. They came with guns drawn and searched all around the property. The front yard quickly filled with police cars and curious onlookers. Raymond talked to the police and even filled out an official police report. So, like, this is all insane. Like, I don't even... What? So yeah, this article was titled, Monster Returns to Mason County. This also made the front page. And this detailed those 6 people's encounter. And don't worry, we're going to get back to the Thomases in a second, because the mom, Mary Thomas, I think her name is... Why are they all named Mary? I'll call her Mrs. Thomas for now until we get to her story, because we'll get back to her. It's the mom, the Thomas's mom. There was also, Mary in her story mentioned a 7th witness. He was a teenage boy driving on Route 7 near Cheshire, Ohio, and reportedly saw a gray man-shaped bird with red eyes and a 10-foot wingspan. It chased his car for about a mile. No mention of, like, a time or date, though, so, like, I don't know when that happened. If that happened that night, because she published that on the 17th, but that would have happened on the 16th, I'm assuming, or was that the 15th and he's now coming forward with the story? I don't know. It's kind of a muddled timeline, but you get the point. This is all happening around the same exact time. Yeah, so monster returns to Mason County. Red-eyed, winged-back 6-foot thing. It was a red-eyed, winged-back 6-foot thing. People eater. Doesn't work. I tried. Okay. Yeah, so she explains that curious people began to flood the TNT area, all trying to get sight of the Mothman kids. I'll put up the thing, you can read it yourself. But yeah, kids were basically treating him like a superhero, demanding that their parents take him to the area. so that they could catch a glimpse, which is kind of crazy. But also, I still feel like that would kind of happen today too. So, a final quote from the article: Mrs. Thomas, who was at church during the sighting, which, okay, so that was 9 p.m. She was at church at 9 p.m. I guess, okay, cool. Why would church be at 9 p.m.? But I guess maybe some churches are. I'm not here to judge. Um, so, Miss Thomas, who was at church, so this is a direct quote. Mrs. Thomas, who was at church during the sighting, said she had a vision Monday night that a creature would appear. In the vision, she said the creature would frighten people but not harm anyone. So, like, Mrs. Thomas is already, like, having visions of this creature. Oh, there is so much information and so much I have to cut, genuinely, and I don't want to. I don't want to cut any of this. There's just so many things that are happening that I just have to simplify it, and we'll just tackle it another time when I have better resources and better equipment and yeah. But is still a this is definitely still a bananas bonkers story. I also forgot to mention in Mary's article, she interviewed probably the first Mothman conspiracy theorist, and I thought it was an interesting take because he blamed the US space program, saying to Mary, "You see, this is a quote, you see, it's that talk of going to the moon and that stuff. It's hard to tell what they've caused to come back to Earth." This was in 66. We went to the moon in 69. Nice. So, the same day that Mary publishes this article called Monster Returns to Mason County, the Herald Dispatch in Huntington, West Virginia, printed an article written by Patricia Seiler, and it was titled Bird, Plane, or Batman? Mason Countians Hunt Mothman. This is the earliest known use of the name Mothman. This name was based on an extremely popular comic book character, who I don't know if you know, his name's Batman. That was a joke, by the way. Batman had a very popular cartoon in the 60s. There's also a Batman villain named Killer Moth who may have inspired the name, even though he wasn't even in the TV show. He's just from the comics. Also, the locals didn't even call him Mothman. They called him the Bird, and they called the TNT, the power plant, the abandoned power plant, like the TNT power plant, they called it the Bird House. And they called Mothman the Bird. I just think that's funny. And like, this genuinely sounds like something that would happen in a plot of Riverdale. Which, I mean, it kind of did. Kind of. I mean, I'm talking more about like them treating it like a superhero and calling it the Bird. Yeah, but that doesn't happen in Riverdale. Something else does. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but it is wild. The Mothman storyline, that's season 5, I want to say. Which is actually, in my opinion, when Riverdale gets good. Season 5, 6, and I haven't seen season 7, I'll admit, but season 5 and 6 are by far my favorite seasons. That's for a different story, different time, different later. Marcella, she said it was the most frightening experience of her life, and it was something she felt deeply uncomfortable talking about. She never drove at night again after her experience and had trouble sleeping because of her horrible nightmares. That's awful. She even sought medical attention at Holzer Hospital to deal with her anxieties and her lack of sleep. She didn't want to tell the doctor that she had seen the doctor. What? She didn't want to tell the doctor what she had seen, but the doctor straight up asked her if she was one of the people that had seen the Mothman, or I guess the bird or whatever. She would often fall into panic attacks. She would feel like he was in the backseat of her car, so she would hit on the brakes and turn around to look behind her to make sure he wasn't there. So just like straight up paranoia. She's like full on going paranoid. She suffered from a lot of PTSD symptoms. That's so sad. I feel so bad for her. So by December of 1966, lots of weird shit was happening around the town of Point Pleasant. UFO sightings were the biggest. TVs and phones, other electronical appliances will malfunction, which again, this is mid-60s technology, so who knows how much of it was aliens and how much of it was just 60s technology, you know? There was lots of weird flashing lights in the sky, cars stalling on Route 62, lots of poltergeist activity. So like locked doors opening and slamming shut, strange noises and bumps in the night, a woman screaming with no source. All of these reports attracted a man named John Keel. So this is now we finally get into who John Keel is. So basically, let's talk about him and Hugh Hefner for a second, because Playboy is directly responsible for Mothman. Okay, that's a bold bold claim, so I'm gonna say allegedly, just to, like, save myself, but, this is my take on it. So and it's also that's more clickbait than anything. I'm just, like stay with me for a second, okay? Stay here for one more second, I promise, stay with me. We're not really gonna be talking about Hugh Hefner a lot at all, really at all, period. I'm not. We are gonna talk about Playboy for a second. So all of this I got from John Keel's website. He was born in and I know maybe this is a little bit too much information about John, Mr. John here, but I got a lot of my information from John, so I feel like I kind of need to give him a shout out. So shout out to John Keel. I think he's dead. I'm like 70% sure he's dead. We're about to find out. Hold on. So he was born on March 25th, 1930. And I could have literally just read one more sentence and I would have found out that he died on July 3rd, 2009. He died at Mount Sinai Hospital, as I say, Sinai Hospital in Manhattan at 79. He was 79 years old. He loved reading, and by the time he was 14, he wanted to be a writer. He was hustling and steadily writing gigs basically throughout his entire life. When he was 18, he had a strange, quote-unquote, illumination experience in his room near the Times Square. He said the room filled with an indescribable light, a pinkish glow, and his mind flooded with a torrent of information. Whatever that means. Okay. In 1951, he was drafted into the military and served in Frankfurt, working mostly for the American Forces Network. He trained in psychological warfare and was a propaganda writer. So, yeah, he was a propaganda writer. Just putting that out there. Do what you want with that information. He left the army in 1954 and spent the next year wandering throughout the Middle East, making money by sending back stories and articles to his agent. He came back and continued working, but most notably, he wrote the Mothman Prophecies. So in 1966, Playboy commissioned him to write an article on UFOs. So, literally, thank you, Playboy. They literally commissioned him to write an article on UFOs. They didn't like it. They didn't like his article, so they rejected it. And had a man named J. Allen Hynek write one that was published in December of 1967. So you can probably go find that. The December 1967 issue has an article by J. Allen Hynek that had replaced the one that they commissioned from John Keel. But basically, while he was doing research for this, he became completely obsessed with UFOs and everything related to them. He began to travel around the country and interview witnesses and wrote dozens of articles about it. Okay, so now he's coming to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So in 1966, he started making repeated visits to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which was then the site of some recent sightings of Mothman. He used these experiences to create one of his most popular books, The Mothman Prophecies. This one was big. So, he was a technical advisor at the Library of Congress from 1968 to 69, a special consultant to the Office of Scientific Research and Bureau of Radiology from 1968 to 71. Then he became a consultant of the Department of Health and Education and Welfare. He was also able to fulfill his younger self's dream by earning his pilot's license. In the 80s, he revived the dormant New York Fortean Society. I wish I had time to talk about, I don't know if it's the Fortean Society. Anyway, it's super interesting. You should Google it because it's Fortean, Fortean Society. It's a really interesting society. It's like a secret society, not so secret society that's not like dangerous or anything, but at least I don't think so. In his later years, he developed diabetes, or I think he already had diabetes. In his later years, his diabetes and its complications slowed him down considerably. He developed cataracts and had to get eye surgery, which made writing extremely difficult. His luck turned for the better, though, when The Mothman Prophecies was made into a movie in 2002. He was particularly happy at being portrayed by Richard Gere? Gere? G-E-R-E. Gere? I think it's Gere, whom he referred to as a John Keel lookalike, which obviously if I had a hot actor playing me, I would also say that they were a lookalike. Also, I don't know if this guy is hot or not. I did not look at a picture of him, but I'll probably put one on the screen for you guys to see. So the publicity around this sparked several new editions of the book, including numerous foreign editions. So he was making money again. Yeah, so now he was making money again. He bought a car, which he dubbed the Mothmobile, which, like, yeah, I would also do that. And he often disappeared on solo road trips. And then, with his age, his health declined, and then he died in Manhattan on July 3rd, 2009. So that's kind of the story of John Keel. So the Mothman prophecies was kind of what got him really, really big. And he did a lot of research in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1966. And that's really why I wanted to talk about John Keel, because I used a lot of his research for this. And genuinely, Mothman would not be as big as he is without John Keel, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I don't know if that's fact, but in my opinion, without the Mothman prophecies, I don't think he would be as much of as an iconic cryptid. He wouldn't be as iconic of a cryptid, in my opinion, without the Mothman prophecies, because that's what really skyrocketed Mothman's fame into what it is now, in my opinion. So thank you, Playboy. I guess. Whatever. So let's go back in time to Wednesday, December 7th, 1966. This is when John finally comes. So November 15th is when the first sighting was, or the quote-unquote first sighting was. I guess November 1st was when the first sighting was, but whatever. Now, December 7th, 1966, John visits Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and talks to Sheriff Halstead, as well as Mabel McDaniel, Linda Scarberry's mom. She arranged the witnesses for Keel to talk to, so Keel directly talks to Linda Scarberry and all these witnesses. He recorded statements from Linda and Roger, Steve and Mary, as well as Connie Carpenter, who had an encounter I didn't talk about. I should have covered Connie Carpenter. You know what? I'm going to go find it. I know I have it written down. Okay, so this is Connie's experience. So on Sunday, November 27th, 1966, so this is like right after, because the 15th is when the first sightings were. So on the 27th, Mary Hyre's niece, 18 years old, her name's Connie, she was driving home on Route 33, past the Mason County Golf Course outside of New Haven, West Virginia. That was when she saw a large gray 7-foot-tall man-like figure with glowing red hypnotic eyes, which caused her to almost run her car off the road. 10-foot wings unfolded from the creature's back and it rose straight up into the air, headed towards Connie's windshield. She gunned the gas pedal and the creature flew over the top of her car, so she raced home. She developed conjunctivitis, which is pink eye, for over 2 weeks afterwards, which she claimed was caused by staring into the creature's glowing red eyes. She also reportedly had strange experiences following the sightings, such as hearing the sound of a loud beeping outside her bedroom window. So that's Connie's experience. I might as well just cover that right now and get that out of the way because I keep mentioning Connie, which I promise I want to talk about every single Mothman encounter, but I can't because it's too much. There is way too much, and I will have to literally do a more in-depth, multi-part episode about Mothman later on. Basically, Connie Carpenter, her aunt was Mary Hyre. So yes, Mary Hyre's niece, Connie Carpenter, had an encounter. And we're gonna go back to Mary Hyre, don't worry. Don't worry, this is all in John Keel's book, because John Keel worked with Mary Hyre. So that's why I kind of started the story with Mary Hyre, because she's one of the main characters. She's the one that writes articles for the Athens, and she works with John Keel. They kind of do a lot of research together. So yeah, so John talks to the sheriff and Mabel McDaniel, who's Linda's mom, and they arrange for him to talk to the witnesses. He gets recorded statements from one of the witnesses and eventually talks to Mary Hyre. So at 9 p.m., they all decide to go to the abandoned North Power Plant in the TNT area. So we have John Keel, Steve and Mary, Roger and Linda, Linda's mom, Mabel, and then Mary Hyre and Connie Carpenter, and then her boyfriend, Keith. So we have a decent amount of people that are here. Okay, we have, hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. Yeah, John, Steve, Mary, Roger, Linda, mom, Mabel, her name's Mabel, and then Mary, Connie, and Keith. So yeah, that is 9. I don't know if you could see my hands. So Creel, Connie, and Keith. I said Creel. Did I say Creel? I meant Keel. I keep going back to Creel. Thank you, Henry Creel. So Keel, Connie, and Keith went into the building to look around, and Keel climbed the steel ladders to walk along the catwalks. So Connie and Keith, so Keith is the boyfriend of Connie. Connie is the niece of Mary Hyre. There's also Mary, the other Mary, not Scarberry. What's the other? I literally am talking about it right now and I can't remember her last name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Connie, Keith, and Keel, they go inside. Keith goes up into the catwalks. So he doesn't find anything while he's up there. So the three of them go to leave. As they're leaving, Connie suddenly sees two large red glowing eyes by the back of the wall and screams. Connie and Keith leave the building in a panic, and then Keel goes back inside, shining his heavy-duty flashlight around to search for whatever could have made the red lights that she just saw. So Keel is like on the ground running with these guys. He's on the front lines. So he is having firsthand experiences now. But he ended up finding nothing. So Keel goes back outside, and Mary tells Keel that they had seen a tall running figure and asked if it was him. But he told her that he had been in the building the whole time, so that tall running figure must have been something else. Mabel added that while Keel was in there, they heard a loud, hollow, metallic sound like something metal had fallen. Everyone in the group, including Deputy Sullivan... Did I mention that there was a deputy here? Everyone in the group, including a deputy named Deputy Sullivan, who had now joined the group, said that they had heard this except for Keel. So everyone heard this but Keel. Maybe unrelated, but Mary Mallette's ear also began bleeding for no reason. So, could be unrelated, but also maybe not. So the group quickly decides to leave, and they drive back to Mabel's house, and Mary's ear eventually stops bleeding. Keel needed more answers, so around midnight, he goes back to the TNT area alone. He discovered what he described was a zone of fear, quote unquote, a zone of fear. Okay. It was a spot in the road that completely filled beady bong. It stopped recording, but it should be recording now. It should be recording now. And here's what you missed on Glee. I genuinely don't know where I was when it stopped recording. So he discovered what he called a zone of fear, quote unquote zone of fear, which was a spot in the road that completely filled you with fear each time you passed through it, and you couldn't figure out why. And that's terrifying. What do you mean? That is a Ryan Murphy show waiting to happen. What? I'm sorry. No, Ryan Murphy deserves prison time. Like, I'm only half joking there. Allegedly. Don't sue me, please. Please don't sue me. So, fast forward to January 11th of 1967, about 5 p.m. Mabel McDaniel, Linda's mom, was walking near Tiny's diner when she saw a large brown creature with a 10-foot wingspan flying over Route 62. At first, she thought it was an airplane, but it was flying too low and too silent for that. The creature had men's legs hanging down from it. She didn't see a head or a neck. Just like the other reports before, it glided silently, without flapping its wings, circling the restaurant for a moment before flying away. January 1967. One night, a stranger walked in. Oh, I'm gonna need to water some plants for this one, guys. Oh, it is still recording. Whoops. Okay, so we're still in January, right? 1967. So this is November, December, January. Wow, 2 months later. So this is like 2 months after Mothman's first sighting, right? And we're already thinking that, like, this could be an alien. I mean, John Keel is at least thinking that. I'm thinking that. So with that in mind, a stranger walks into Mary Hyre's office, located across from the Mason County Courthouse. So he was described as a thin man, short, about 4'6", with strange, deep-set eyes covered by thick glasses, and with long black hair that was cut off at the ends like a bowl cut. So, like, very Aloysius O'Hare coded, if you get what I'm going for there. Are you here to sell air? I don't know. He spoke in a peculiar, low, halted voice. He wore a blue short-sleeved shirt, blue pants, and thick-soled shoes. So he asked for directions to Welch, West Virginia, and, quote, kept getting closer to me as his funny eyes were staring me almost hypnotically. That's a quote from Mary Hyre. She described them as not blinking. He said his truck had broken down in Detroit and that he had hitchhiked to town. Mary was alarmed by this person, so she brought her manager into her office. Near the end of the discussion, the phone rang, and when she answered it, she noticed the man pick up a ballpoint pen from her desk and look at it as if he'd never seen one before. But, and I'm not judging, genuinely not judging. But what? You've never seen a ballpoint pen? So she offered to let him have the pen, and then he laughed out loud and left the building. I'm pretty sure with the pen. I'm pretty sure he took it with him. Which, I mean, on top of all that, he stole her pen. Rude. I guess he didn't steal it. She did say he could have it, but whatever. This experience was strange enough for Mary and Keel to consider it a possible Men in Black encounter. So Mary told this to Keel, and Keel was like, "You probably just witnessed a Men in Black." I don't think it's a Man in Black. Men in Black. I genuinely think this is just some weirdo. Or maybe an alien. I think it's possible an alien, but also I do think it's a little bit rude, a little mean, to associate anyone who acts like that with being an alien, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, it's very, like, autistic coded, in my opinion, and I don't think it's right or, like, fair to be like, anyone who acts like that's an alien. Like, that's not fair. Like, people like me were put in mental asylums during times like that. So, I don't know. I get at the time they would be saying this is an alien, but I'm not going to be saying that now. I don't want to be like, this guy was absolute. I don't know if he was an alien. Maybe just a little mentally unwell. So we're going to go with that story. It just feels a lot better. I don't know. It doesn't feel right calling him an alien when, like, mentally ill people have a history. And I'm not like, are you guys getting what I'm trying to say here? And, like, I'm not calling autism a mental illness because I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm, like, very certain it's not. But I'm saying that, like, mentally ill people like me, gay people like me, autistic people, all of us, we were all put in asylums. I mean, that's a gross under exaggeration. That's a gross under exaggeration. We were done more than put in asylums back then. Yeah, I don't know if what I'm trying to say is coming across, so I might as well just move on. I'm not going to call this person an alien. I think it might have either been someone who's mentally ill or someone who is just socialized different. Who knows? But I'm not going to call them an alien. I think it feels wrong. I don't know. We're going to move on. So Linda Scarberry had an encounter with the Men in Black as well, but I couldn't really find any info about it. So this is from the book Mothman, The Facts Behind the Legend by Jeff Walmsley and Donnie Surgeon. Linda said, the Men in Black wore suits, black hats, and sunglasses. See, this sounds more like the Men in Black. The guy from before doesn't sound like the Men in Black. This sounds more like the Men in Black. Oh, this is a direct quote. Okay, hold on. So this is a direct quote. Linda said, and I quote, the Men in Black wore suits, black hats, and sunglasses. They drove black cars, Cadillacs, I think. They looked like human beings, but their skin was somewhat transparent. You could see the veins in their hands very clearly. Their fingers were longer than normal person's fingers as well. Daddy shook hands with them, and he said they were awkward in shaking hands. They seemed to not know what to do or how to shake hands. See, my theory has always been that the Men in Black are aliens, okay? Because they're the ones that come to, like, erase your mind or, like, to get the information about aliens. Of course, they are the aliens, right? Like, also, that's, like, creepier. So it's more fun. Because the Men in Black, the story behind the Men in Black, I'm not talking about the Men in Black movies. The conspiracy theory about the Men in Black is that people who have a lot of information about extraterrestrials and stuff, the Men in Black give them a visit and confiscate that information and threaten their lives. That's the theory here. So Linda said, one of the cars would follow us around. There were 3 men in the car. The MIB went so far as to follow us through the drive-thru of a restaurant. We were afraid to turn around and just looked in the mirror at them. Okay, so a man and a woman carrying a camera visited Mothman witnesses Steve and Mary, wanting to take pictures of them. The Mallettes, oh, that's their last name, the Mallettes. The Mallettes took down the license plate of the Volkswagen, but the police said that that number did not exist, which, like, could just be a fluke. I don't know how that works, but I definitely think that could just be a fluke. So, Friday, May 5th, 1967, Mary Hyre sees the same Aloysius O'Hare dude from before, back in January, because now we're in May. So the same dude from back in January, she sees him walking down the streets in Point Pleasant. He was wearing a light brown colored uniform and the same thick-soled shoes. Mary said the man appeared startled when he saw her. He ran back towards a black car that suddenly came driving around the corner, climbed in, and a vehicle took off. My theory about this guy is more that he's probably just like a UFO fanatic or like an alien fanatic. Just someone back then that, because I feel like that was like a thing, like alien groupies. Wasn't that a thing? Weren't that a thing? That's not right grammar. Wasn't that a thing? Like, I don't know. That just seems more realistic to me. So that was Friday, May 5th. So on Monday, May 8th, as Mary was entering her home, a black vehicle stopped right outside and a man got out holding a camera. He took a photo of Mary standing on her porch, opening the door to her home. Then, the blind bright flash of the light briefly disoriented her as he took off. Fast forward from May all the way to November now, which I definitely cut a lot out. But I mean, we're already getting really long here, as you can tell from where we're at. So don't worry, we're getting near the end. We're gonna start wrapping this up soon. November 2nd, 1967. That afternoon, Marcella's sister, Virginia Thomas, the mother of the Thomas children, I told you we would come back to her. I told you. See, I follow through. So she was the one that was at the church when they saw the Mothman. So the kids were at home and she was at church at 9 p.m. And she's also the one that had the vision of this creature, right? And she said like that it was friendly and not gonna hurt anyone, which I believe her. Let him inside right now. So she was in the kitchen of her house so the Thomas's house is within the TNT area. So she was in her house. Virginia Thomas was in her house and she heard a loud squeaking sound that she said sounded like a bad fan belt. She stepped out onto her porch and saw a large shadow across the grass field and a tall gray man-shaped figure moving quickly among the TNT area igloos. Because remember, there's like cement igloos. So she sees this like man-shaped gray thing running amongst the igloos. The figure walked upright like a man but was much larger and moved very fast in a gliding motion. It then disappeared into the nearby trees. After the sighting, Mrs. Thomas had several nightmares, one of which featured strange people along the river and an invasion of some sort coming over the Silver Bridge in trucks and going into the TNT area. In the dream, the Thomases grabbed the kids and ran. She wasn't sure what the dream meant. Getting scary dreams now? Can he manipulate dreams? Can he give good dreams? I'm not gonna finish that sentence. Okay, December 15th, 1967. Hyre was finishing up her workday at the bureau and was headed home when she heard a loud rumble. We're getting to the big finale. So when people talk about Mothman, they usually talk about the TNT sighting. That's like the biggest one, the TNT area sighting with Linda, the Scarboroughs, and the Mallettes. Like, that's the big one that people talk about. The other thing that people talk about is this thing I'm about to talk about that happened on December 15th, 1967. And this is genuinely tragic. People died. People actually died. So I don't want to take this lightly at all. I want to take this with all seriousness and all sincerity because 46 people died. So Mary Hyre was finishing up her workday, December 15th, 1967. Mary Hyre was finishing up her workday at the bureau and was headed home when she heard a loud rumble. Then she heard a young boy running down the street yelling, "The Silver Bridge has collapsed." Hyre was the first news reporter on the scene as the bridge was located just a few hundred feet from her office, from the messenger's office. What happened was during the peak... Okay, so basically what happened was during the peak of rush hour Christmas shopping at 4:58 p.m., the Silver Bridge that connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia to Gallipolis, Ohio, yeah, that's how you say it, collapsed. Completely collapsed. It's still considered one of the deadliest bridge disasters in modern history. 46 people died, and 2 bodies were never found. The tragedy led to the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1968, which established a national bridge inspection program which created bridge inspection standards still in use to this day. So as awful as that was, at least that got people reinforcing the bridges that are currently up. So the Silver Bridge was constructed using steel eye-bars, which supported the bridge from above like a giant bicycle chain. But the bridge had a fatal flaw. While many eyebrow bridges at the time had several chains on either side to provide redundancy, the Silver Bridge had only one chain on each side of the span to hold up the bridge decking. Basically, there is this chain that holds the bridge up, and most bridges that are built like this have multiple chains, at least two, holding it up, one on each side. I don't know if that's making any sense at all, but basically, there was one link in this chain. It supported it like a bicycle chain, kind of, and so there's lots of links in the chain, and so one of them had a stress crack in it that was tiny, that the inspectors, I'm like watching myself, that's why I'm looking down. That's why the inspectors did not catch this. It was a teeny tiny crack in one of the chains. It eventually just broke, and since there was only one chain holding up the bridge, the entire bridge fell. After the bridge fell and after this collapse, there were a few reports of Mothman being spotted on or near the bridge, but I couldn't find anything substantial on that. Legit, I can't find any, like, all I see is people retelling this story. I can't find a source. Maybe I'm not that good at research, but I genuinely tried and I could not find any real sources of this being real, just kind of people talking about it. Which I guess is, I mean, that is what cryptids are. Cryptids are stories being told by people, mostly unsubstantiated. That's the appeal of cryptids. That's why we love them. So I'm not saying that these cryptids are real, but these cryptids are fun to talk about. That's what I'm saying. So fast forward to Friday, December 22nd. I promise we're almost done. During that afternoon, two men in black overcoats walked into Mary Hyre's office. This girl can't catch a break. They were described as short with dark complexions and Asian features. I don't know why that was necessary, but they were described with Asian features. I'm just saying what they said, okay? I'm not. Anyway, they were not interested in the bridge disaster, but they wanted to know about the UFO reports in the area. Hyre handed them a large folder of related newspaper clippings, which they briefly looked over and gave back. They asked her what she would do if she was told to stop writing on the subject of UFOs. This sounds like a regular Men in Black encounter. Like, they come in, they say, stop talking about UFOs, give us all your information about UFOs, and don't ever talk about them again. This sounds like a regular Men in Black encounter, to me at least, from what I've heard about the Men in Black. Please don't, I don't have any information about UFOs or aliens, I promise. Please don't come visit me, I promise you can have all of it. I don't have anything. The Men in Black scare me. I promise I don't have anything alien related. I don't know anything about aliens, besides the fact what has been told to us by the government. That's all, okay? So they asked her what she would do if they told her to stop, and she said, I'm gonna keep doing it anyway if you tell me to stop. I don't care. I'm gonna keep doing it. Which, like, yeah, go Mary. So she went back to work and they left. While she wasn't looking, they literally just left. So, like, obviously these guys could have been just UFO fans, but, like, they sound like the Men in Black. I don't know why they were described as Asian, or even, I think, Korean. Oh no, because later that afternoon, a 5'7" man came into Mary's office and introduced himself as Jack Brown. He was described as looking Korean with a dark complexion and black piercing eyes. So I don't know why this Asian thing is coming back into play here, or is a commonality, but it does feel vaguely racist, I won't lie. But okay, moving on from that, he had messy black hair and long fingers and wore a poorly fitting black suit with a strangely knotted tie. I mean, he said he was a UFO researcher and once again asked Hyre what she would do if someone asked her to stop writing the articles. So, like, it's the same thing as before. The same exact thing as before. Mary asked him, even, if he was with the two men that she previously talked to, and he said that he wasn't. He stammered as he asked about John Keel, expressing doubt that he and Mary had actually witnessed UFOs in the area. Said it wasn't true. He wanted to know where John Keel was and wanted Mary to take him to the UFO sightings location. Mary told him that she was going home for the night and that he'd have to look around the town himself. It's like, yeah, I'm not your tour guide. The weird dude then visited the homes of several Mothman witnesses in the area, including the Scarberrys, the Mallettes, as well as Connie Carpenter, and made them all very uncomfortable with his behavior. His piercing black eyes stared hypnotically. He also claimed to be a friend of Mary's, so when he went to these people, he would claim to be a friend of Mary's. He brought a tape recorder with him, yet seemed completely unfamiliar with how to use it. He didn't actually seem all that interested in the Mothman or the UFO reports. He instead just asked questions about Mary and John, so didn't really ask questions about Mothman. He said he didn't know Keel personally, but later on he claimed they were good friends. So he's saying he's friends with Mary, but then asking questions about Mary, saying he's not friends with John, but now he's saying he is friends with John, so it's kind of weird. Witnesses also said he had a weird handshake, puzzlingly awkward handshake. Despite claiming to be from Cambridge, Ohio, He wasn't familiar with the Ohio newspapers and didn't know where Columbus, Ohio was. This Jack Brown eventually left and was never heard from again. Nobody knows what happened to him. He just dipped. This story comes from the Mothman Prophecies by John Keel, chapter 2. So that's like, okay, that's like the last of the stories. Okay, now we're gonna wrap it up. I don't really have any more like full-on like sightings. There are a lot more, but I'm not gonna cover any more of them. We're gonna kind of move on and wrap it up. So John Keel believes that Point Pleasant is a window area. Hold on. Ooh. Oh, I had to deal with work, and then my camera suddenly went crazy, so let me fix that real quick. Okay, I wonder how that'll look in the recording. I am a manager at a place, so sometimes I have to deal with stuff at my work. We are almost done here. I promise I will let you guys go and stop holding you hostage in just a moment. John Keel believes that Point Pleasant is a window area, a place that was marked by long periods of strange sightings, monster reports, and lots of unusual things going on, including the coming and going of unusual persons. He states that it may be wrong to blame the collapse of the bridge on the local UFO sightings, but the intense activity in the area at the time does suggest some sort of connection or coincidence. Others have pointed to another supernatural link to the strange things happening, blaming the events on the legendary cornstalk curse that was placed on Point Pleasant in the 1770s. Now let me stop you right here. This cornstalk curse does not exist. It was made up for a play. It did not happen. There is no curse placed on anyone in that area. There's no cornstalk curse. It was made up for a play. In 1921, a fictional outdoor play was written, and it was held in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The play was based on the town's history with a dramatized and fictionalized version of events. In the play, Cornstalk curses the land. The story of this 200-year curse was then passed down from generation to generation through oral storytelling, despite it being information from a fictionalized play. It is not true. The story was finally debunked when a transcript of the play was discovered. So we have a transcript of the play. We know it's not true. There was no cornstalk curse. It's all based on a play. It's not real. There's no curse. Sorry to break it to you, but Native American people don't curse like that. Like, that is not. So anyway, after the bridge collapsed, the Mothman sightings basically died down completely, leading many to believe that he was maybe an omen or a warning, trying to tell people that the disaster was coming. There's a few other disasters where he has been seen, where I personally do not believe that these sightings were Mothman. But that's just my own personal opinion. I'll let you guys have your own personal opinion on that. So Chernobyl, employees reported seeing something flying above the area before the disaster, but this was also after the Mothman sightings have been reported, so there might have been some cognitive bias in there somewhere. 9/11 is another one. A crane-like creature was seen around the buildings a few days before. Could have just been a crane. I don't know bird migration patterns, but I don't know. The I-35W bridge collapse. A month prior, a Mothman-like figure was reportedly seen. And the swine flu outbreak in Mexico, apparently. In April of 2009, there were reports of a Mothman-like creature. Then the swine flu happened, so apparently he was trying to warn us of that too. I don't know. I don't know. You guys can feel how you want about those. I personally don't really believe them. But so yeah. That's basically Mothman. I want to go over my theories real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's take two. We're gonna take that one more time. Okay. So we're gonna wrap it up in a second, but I kind of want to end on theories of what people think Mothman actually is. Who is Mothman? What is he really? So here's a couple theories. My favorite theory is that he was trying to warn us, that he was like an omen of some sort, sent by some sort of something to warn us. But let's be real, he's probably an alien. And that's another theory, that he's an alien. And let's be real, he most likely is. Like, aliens are real, he's probably an alien. Another theory is that he's a mutant caused by chemical leakage from, like, all the TNT stuff. Like, maybe the chemicals leaked and infected a bird of some sort and mutated the bird into Mothman. That's a theory, I guess. Another theory is he's a demon. Another theory is that he's the Flatwoods Monster, which the Flatwoods Monster is also an alien. People think that the Flatwoods Monster is an alien, which, spoiler for a future episode. Another theory is that it's a Demogorgon from the Upside Down. That's a joke. Obviously, that's a joke. But a poor victim of experimentation is a real theory. People think it could be a poor victim of experimentation, very L-coded. Another theory is a barn owl or any other kind of owl. which I think it's a little bit too big to be an owl, I won't lie, but also the owl man. So another theory is a crane. The sandhill crane is not native to this area, but people think it could be the sandhill crane. Oh, okay. I was like trying to figure out what I was trying to say here. So this theory is directly disputed by the Mothman witnesses themselves. They have literally said on record that there's no way that this could have been a sandhill crane. They looked at a picture of a sandhill crane, they were like, that was not what I saw at all. Also, the sandhill crane is not native to the area. So that's all. That's all I have to say about Mothman. Why did my camera do that? Why does it do that? That's gonna piss me off. Okay, I think we're back. Let's see. Thank you guys so much for watching. I don't really think I have anything left to say about Mothman, but this was such a fun time talking to you guys about Mothman and like the wild different things that have been happening and like I don't know. I love Mothman. I've always loved Mothman. He's always been my boyfriend and he's always going to be my boyfriend and he's mine and you can't have him. So I don't know what else to tell you. Thank you guys for watching. This is the first installment, Disgusting Creatures. There's going to be, I don't know what order quite yet at time of filming, but I'll figure it out eventually by the time of posting. So, but it's going to be Disgusting Creatures, Disgusting True Crime, Disgusting Paranormal, and Disgusting Horror. And we're going to be talking about horror movies, we're going to talk about true crime and paranormal and creatures, cryptids, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. I think this is going to be a fun time. Mothman it's always been such a fascinating story to me. Everything about him has always been so fascinating to me. And I cannot wait to go back to Ohio and visit my best friend and to see the Mothman statue again. Because we're absolutely going to go visit Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and go to the Mothman statue and go to the Mothman Museum. And I'm going to force her to take us up to the TNT area because I need to see this power plant, this abandoned power plant. I just needed to look at it. I just want to take a picture of it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, if you want to follow that journey when I go follow me on my social media. It should all be, everywhere should be Disgusting Pod or podcast. I will put it up in the video on the edit. And once I'm a little bit better at this, I will be able to say it. But I'm pretty sure I don't use the Bird app. I don't use that app, but I do have an account on there, which is disgusting pod _ pod. But that'll link you to where I am active, which is Blue Sky, which is just disgusting -pod. And I think Instagram is disgusting _pod. I think it's hard because Blue Sky doesn't let underscores, but anywhere it can allow an underscore, it's disgusting _podcast. Yeah, so go follow me on my social medias if you want to see updates on this podcast and on my journeys. That's the best way to find me is on my Disgusting Podcast social media until I make my own personal social media. Right now, I'm kind of keeping that private. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week when we talk about, I don't want to spoil it. I'll let you guys see it. Okay, bye. Oh, my hands get cut off if I do that. My hands are gone. I have no hands anymore. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys comment, like, rate, subscribe, all that jazz, all those things, all those magical thingies that help make this prosper. Also, I will be covering horror movies. I hate long outros. I'm so sorry. I am going to be covering horror movies, which means my Patreon will be us reacting to those movies. So I will be watching an upcoming movie on my Patreon. So go subscribe to my Patreon. The lowest tier gets you in and gets you all the access to everything. I don't like separate content by tiers. The lowest tier gets you access to everything. The higher tiers are just thank yous. So I really appreciate that if you guys decide to subscribe to my Patreon. But yes, I will be, eventually I want to be doing live streams and doing live reactions to movies and stuff, and when I research for things, I want to live research and do it with you guys, because I think that'd be fun, like a fun way to just have conversations with you, especially it's probably, I don't know, I think that could be fun. I think that could be way fun, and then we can watch movies. I really am gonna be researching a certain serial killer, and I want to watch the TV show that was made about him just to compare and contrast versus what really happened and what was portrayed, and if that was damaging to what really happened, and if, the victims' families aren't okay with the depiction. I don't know, I just kind of want to dissect it a little bit. We're going to talk about it. Don't worry, it's coming up. That's what I'm working on right now, and I'm kind of excited. So I will be posting full reactions on my Patreon. I don't know what other extra content I'll be putting on there, but I will be putting lots of extra content on my Patreon, so please go support me on there. Right now, that is probably the best way to support me until I can figure out how to monetize this channel and grow big enough to monetize it. I say channel because I'm posting this on YouTube, but also I'm gonna post this on Spotify, and I want to figure out how to do ads there. And I need to make money. I need to make a living on this. I want to stop my day job. I don't want to do. I want to do this. I want to put all my time and effort into this. I want to go back to school. I want to study cryptozoology and parapsychology. That's what I want to be doing with my life. And I would love your guys' support in that, because then I could give you guys great content, better content, well-researched content, educated content. I want a diploma. I want to take this as seriously as I can, because this is what I love doing. I love talking about scary things. I love talking about creepy things, disgusting things. I want to dissect what the word disgusting even means, because I've been called disgusting for just being gay. That's not disgusting. It's great. Love being gay. It's awesome. So, I don't know. This podcast is really just gonna be fun. So, stick around. Okay. Yeah, that's all from me. Bye. Bye. What?